Let's get started. Our top focus on Gravitas tonight, we are getting you the latest on the Russia-Ukraine war. Crucial developments. Reports suggest that Russian forces are now closer than ever to a key Ukrainian city. We tell you more about the significance of what's happening on the battlefield. And here's a look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. As America hits India with tariffs for buying Russian oil, India is striking back with strategy. We tell you how India and Russia are moving fast to reaffirm their strategic partnership. We're unpacking for you all that has happened in the last 24 hours. All about how the Indian National Security Adviser's Moscow visit has been a game changer, and telling you more about how the Russian president is set to visit India. We're also getting you the updates on the Uttarakhand tragedy, where it's a race against time to look for survivors. All this and more coming up. Our top focus tonight on Gravitas as the tensions rise over the West's failure on the Ukraine war. The war-torn country continues to hold the line even as, behind the scenes, political leaders and diplomats try and reach a solution. Russia's relentless offensive in eastern Ukraine is gaining ground slowly. In fact, reports suggest that Russian forces are closer than ever to the key Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk. Now, this city, which is a logistics lifeline and once home to 60,000 people, is now a war zone. And the Ukrainian forces are saying it's the hottest part of the front, with nearly a third of all combat happening there. And for every inch that Russia gains, Ukraine makes sure that they pay in blood. In fact, fierce battles are now raging just 6 kilometers from Pokrovsk. Russian patrols briefly entered the city last week, in fact, in a sign of just how close this is actually getting. And as far as Ukraine's strategy is concerned, it remains focused on slowing the Russians down and holding the line. And Russia has thrown in everything. 110,000 troops, that's at least on paper. And they are pushing towards the city. But you see, these are not elite forces. Many are reportedly undertrained, worn down, and also suffering crushing losses. Russia's goal seems to be to wear down the Ukrainian resistance while cutting off supply lines and choking Pokrovsk without necessarily storming it head on. And yet, as the battlefield burns, US President Donald Trump is looking for a breakthrough. In Washington, Trump says there is a very good chance of a summit with Vladimir Putin, a possible step towards ending the war. In fact, he says good talks were held with Putin's team, and a three-way meeting between Trump, Putin and Zelensky could happen as soon as next week. Trump's frustration is only mounting, and he has said no more delays. And now he's also warning of tough new sanctions if Putin does not agree to a ceasefire. The US Secretary of State has confirmed that Trump is giving Russia just hours to comply or face more punishment. Oil and gas, remember, make up a quarter of Russia's budget. And for the first time, The US says it has concrete examples of what Russia might accept in exchange for peace, a shift from months of silence. And as for Putin, he called the latest talks constructive. Trump's aides are moving quickly as well, and locations for the summit are under discussion. Putin himself has suggested the UAE as host. The push for peace is real, also urgent. But while diplomacy inches forward, the war continues. It's not the same with Zelensky, in fact. Putin says conditions for a potential meeting with the Ukrainian leader had not been met, and the statement comes hours after Zelensky repeated a call for direct talks. Meanwhile, overnight, Russian attacks killed at least 6 people, including a strike on a recreation center in Zaporizhia that injured 4 children. Zelensky called the attack cruelty, aimed at instilling fear. Another strike, this time on a gas station near the Romanian border, targeted Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Hundreds of families left without heating. More weapons are on the way, and NATO allies have pledged over $1 billion in new aid. Much of it US-made, and the US State Department has approved a $200 million deal to help Kiev buy more military gear. And so while Trump prepares for a summit and talks for peace, on the battlefield, the bloodshed continues. Is Donald Trump losing a key US ally? As Washington hits India with crushing tariffs for buying Russian oil, New Delhi is not backing down. Instead, it's striking back, but with strategy. And with a single visit, India's National Security Adviser has thrown a curveball that is, in a way, going to force Washington to rethink its play. Ajit Doval has said that Russian President Vladimir Putin is now preparing to visit India. As tensions build over Trump's tariff war, India and Russia are moving fast to reaffirm their special privileged strategic partnership. And this is an important signal, to say the least. It can also be called a checkmate move. What looked like pressure from Washington has backfired in a way. With Putin making the next move, Trump's attempt to try and isolate Russia may have just cost him India. In Moscow, Ajit Doval said, and I'm quoting here, "We are very excited to learn about the visit of President Putin to India. I think the dates are almost finalized," quote unquote. Meanwhile, Shoigu, speaking with Doval, described ties between India and Russia as strong, time-tested, and also backed a new round of full-scale negotiations between Putin and the Indian Prime Minister. And his words made one thing clear: both sides are preparing for something far more than just a symbolic meeting. And this visit is Doval's first to Moscow since Operation Sindoor, India's high-stakes military operation against Pakistan terror factories earlier this year itself. And he is expected to hold wide-ranging talks on defense cooperation, oil trade, regional security. And the timing of the visit, as well as the announcement, could not be more important. Just 24 hours earlier, US President Donald Trump, remember, slapped an additional 25% tariff on India for oil purchases from Russia. Trump said that the new tariff was to penalize India for buying Russian oil, which pushed the total tariff burden to a whopping 50%. It is the highest, in fact, that Washington has imposed on any trade partner. Even America's rival China has a lower tariff. And this, in a way, was Trump's way of trying to punish India for not towing Washington's line. And as far as the war in Ukraine is concerned, either way, if that was Trump's intent, it has had quite the opposite impact now. Instead of retreating or bowing down under Trump's pressure, India has doubled down on its traditional partnership with Russia. In fact, according to Indian media reports, Ajit Doval's meetings in Moscow will cover everything from the remaining delivery of the S-400 missile systems to India's response to Russia's formal recognition of Taliban in Afghanistan. And that's not all. The Indian External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, is also expected to land in Russia later this month for the India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission, which is a bilateral platform to discuss trade and energy security. Moscow, for its part, is keen to lock in India's partnership. Shoigu told Doval that Russia sees India as key to building a more just and sustainable world order. A clear dig, in a way, at the West's sanctions-led diplomacy. And while India and Russia talk cooperation, the US is scrambling for a diplomatic breakthrough of its own. The Russian president is also expected to meet the US Special Envoy, who is in Moscow for a last-minute push to try and secure a Ukraine ceasefire. The deadline, August 8, set by Trump himself, remember, who has threatened more sanctions if there is no deal. But with Putin confirming his India visit before any progress on Ukraine, the message is clear. Russia has options, and so does India. And India has sent a clear message. India will not be bullied at the trade table. Prime Minister Modi has drawn a red line. The livelihoods of India's farmers, fishermen and dairy workers are not for sale. Listen to this.
भारत अपने किसानों के, पशुपालकों के और मछुआरे भाई बहनों के हितों के साथ कभी भी समझौता नहीं करेगा। और मैं जानता हूं व्यक्तिगत रूप से मुझे बहुत बड़ी कीमत चुकानी पड़ेगी, लेकिन मैं इसके लिए तैयार हूं।
There's also the question of why India was singled out. Because of China's dominance in rare earth minerals, critical to high-tech industries, and America needs it. For India, this is about more than just economics. The US basically wants access to India's vast agriculture and dairy markets. But that risks upending a labor-intensive sector and alienating the Indian farmer. And they are the backbone of the Indian economy. India has also rejected importing genetically modified foods and remains cautious of dairy imports, sensitive not only economically but also culturally and religiously, given the cow's sacred status. In fact, this is why India's foreign ministry has called Trump's tariff unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable. And analysts agree. They have called it a move lacking logic and filled with double standards. Prime Minister Modi is reportedly preparing for a first visit to China in over 7 years, signaling that India may be rebalancing its global partnerships instead of waiting for America to come around. The president of Brazil, for that matter, has even called for BRICS countries to discuss how to collectively push back against Washington's tariffs. He said he planned to call Prime Minister Modi as well as the Chinese president. The BRICS group also includes Russia and South Africa. Meanwhile, in India, both supporters of Prime Minister Modi as well as the opposition parties are calling on the Indian government to respond firmly to the US tariffs across the political spectrum. And the Modi government has been urged to act with self-respect and dignity. The Indian National Congress Party president, meanwhile, has said, and I'm quoting, India's national interest is supreme. Any nation that arbitrarily penalizes India for its time-tested policy of strategic autonomy rooted in the ideology of non-alignment does not understand the steel frame that India is made of. India's domestic industries, especially agriculture, jewelry, textiles, are reeling. Indian citizens have also criticized Trump's tariff increase, calling it unjustified and harmful.
These provocations that Trump is initiating again and again affect us. The reason behind that is to dominate everyone like Russia and Israel. But our role in the world has always remained neutral, whether it be World War II or World War I.
I think Trump's approach seems overly radical, and there was no need to resort to be excessive in this matter. The newly imposed tariffs, supposedly placed due to oil purchases from Russia, seem extreme. Russia has historically been India's evergreen friend, offering considerable support, including in the 1971 war.
India is a massive market. Trump's decisions could ultimately harm him as well, and minor personal issues might arise between the two countries. However, the USA has been a great ally for a long time. Some of Trump's recent remarks, including his tweets labeling India as a dead economy, are untrue. How India is a dead economy? India has grown to become the third largest developing economy. How is it a dead economy?
And the thing is, ultimately, Trump's tariff war raises rather uncomfortable questions. Is partnership with the US conditional on obedience? Is neutrality now considered betrayal? Why is Washington so eager to throw away years of cooperation and, in a way, replace it with Cold War-style threats? For India, though, this may be a defining moment to stand firm in shaping a world that does not revolve around one superpower, but one that is built on mutual respect, shared prosperity and partnerships that empower all. New Delhi is signaling it will not be strong-armed by America into silence, that this time India is holding the line. Quad, or the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, painstakingly built over decades to counter China's expansion, is crumbling under President Trump's trade war assault. Donald Trump has imposed punishing tariffs on every single Quad partner, all this while calling them friends. India, 50% penalties, Japan enduring 24% reciprocal tariffs. Australia, America's most loyal Pacific ally, gets slammed with steel and aluminium levies. More in this detailed report.
The Quadrilateral Security Dialogue took decades to forge, born from shared democratic values and mutual strategic interests. The Quad represents the Indo-Pacific's most formidable counter to Chinese expansionism. India, Japan, Australia, and the United States. 4 democracies united in purpose, bound by trust, strengthened by economic interdependence. Donald Trump has obliterated it all in the last 8 months of his presidency. Trump has systematically weaponized trade against every single Quad partner. He slammed India with a 50% tariff and warns of more for buying Russian oil. Japan, America's closest Pacific ally, faces a punishing 15%. Australia, too, has not escaped Trump's tariff rampage. Trump imposed a 10% baseline tariff on most imported goods. Geostrategist Brahma Chelani raises concerns that the shadow over the escalating tensions between Washington and New Delhi could postpone the next Quad meeting and Trump's visit to India. The Quad summit had been expected to be held in New Delhi as early as September, but given the present situation, the meeting in all likelihood will be delayed. Quad, a grouping born to stand tall against authoritarian overreach, now wobbles under the weight of one unpredictably protectionist administration. What took a decade to build, one term may undo. The Quad's echo is shrinking unless partners find new reasons to stand together. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
And before we go on any further, here's a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. Coming up right next, how many times will General Munir visit the United States? He is headed back to Washington again. More on this in just a bit. And later on the show, we get to the story of America's secret weapon against China. You don't want to miss this. Shifting focus for now to India's Uttarakhand, where it's a race against time to search for survivors after the terrifying cloudburst. In fact, a sudden surge of water and debris tore through the narrow mountain valley of Dharali, leaving behind a trail of destruction. At least 5 people are confirmed dead and over 50 are still missing. Shocking footage captured the horror. People seen running moments before the waves swallowed buildings entirely. Others trapped under choking layers of freezing mud and debris. The tourist destination now lies buried in silence, broken only by the hum of the rescue machines and the sounds of sobs of survivors. The Indian Army, joined by the NDRF, ITBP and SDRF, launched a massive rescue and relief operation. Over 225 troops, including specialized engineering and medical teams, are battling against time and terrain to search for the missing and restore vital access routes. Drone footage reveals the full scale of the devastation. Shattered roads, landslides, toppled buildings as heavy machinery struggles to clear boulders the size of cars. Survivors recounting stories of near death and helplessness as the flash flood caught the town unaware. They also recounted the quick rescue efforts by the Indian Army.
We came here for Chardham Yatra when the cloudburst happened. We were rescued by the army.
We came here to visit Gangotri. Indian Army rescued us during the cloudburst. We are grateful to them.
We had gone to Gangotri. We witnessed the cloudburst right before our eyes. Thankfully, we were rescued by the army. Authorities have managed the situation well. During the cloudburst, we are grateful to them.
And experts say the disaster was likely triggered by a rapidly melting glacier, intensified by the relentless rainfall over the past 3 days, a stark signal of the growing impact of climate change in a way on the fragile Himalayan ecosystem. And alarmingly, many of the worst hit areas lie directly on the riverbed of Khir Ganga, which is a tributary of the Bhagirathi River. In fact, these are zones that have long been warned as dangerous. Experts and even the Supreme Court of India raised red flags about unchecked construction and unregulated tourism there. Yet hotels, homes, roads have mushroomed in ecologically sensitive floodplains, turning natural disaster zones into death traps. And with Himalayan glaciers melting faster than ever, the Dharali tragedy may not be an exception, but a warning of what might lie ahead. how many times would General Asim Munir visit the United States? Because yes, he was in Washington just a few weeks ago, remember, and now he's headed back there again. But why him? He's not the Prime Minister of the country, not even an elected leader, and yet he is the one that the US is engaging with at the highest level. In fact, this time, officially, he is going to attend the retirement ceremony of General Michael Kurilla, CENTCOM's top general. Kurilla notably had publicly praised Pakistan's counter-terrorism efforts, which is ironic because it is Pakistan's military and ISI that provide support to various terror groups. Still, the visit is raising eyebrows. During Munir's last trip in June, remember, he did not just attend military events, he also had a private 2-hour lunch with the US president. No Pakistani civilian officials were invited, very significantly. And that meeting came just weeks after India dismantled terror infrastructure, remember, inside Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Operation Sindoor was New Delhi's direct retaliation to the Pahalgam terror attack, which took away 26 lives. India destroyed 9 terror camps and neutralized over 100 terrorists. Tensions between the two sides were at their highest in years. And days later, Pakistan's army chief was in Washington. Reports say the discussions between Munir and Trump's team included trade, economic development, regional security, even cryptocurrency. And in his usual style, Trump claimed he had Munir there to thank him for ending the war and de-escalating the conflict. As if Pakistan's decision to back off had anything to do with the blow that India had dealt to its terror infrastructure. Trump claimed it was General Asim Munir who prevented a nuclear war, and Munir did not push back. In fact, he told Trump he deserved a Nobel Peace Prize for it. It was a rather bizarre episode because the May 10 ceasefire, remember, came from the DGMO level talks. No foreign involvement and definitely no American intervention. Just India sticking to its policy. Bilateral engagement? Only when it comes to Pakistan. Still, Trump has doubled down on his narrative, and Asim Munir seems happy to play along, so long as it helps him stay relevant. Alongside military discussions, the two unveiled a US-Pakistan trade agreement. It gives American firms access to Pakistan's oil reserves. Soon after, Trump slashed tariffs on Pakistani exports from 29% to 19%. This is a country officially designated as a terror sponsor, yet it is being rewarded. And now Asim Munir is headed back to America once again. This visit feels like more than just ceremonial. It signals the rise of a military man playing the role of a head of state. And what exactly does Field Marshal Asim Munir want? He hasn't given a single media interview since taking office in 2022, but speculation around his ambitions keeps increasing. In recent months, the Pakistan government has denied multiple times that Munir is eyeing the presidency. One denial is clarification. 3, well, that's damage control. So is he aiming for the top job? Some say yes. It would give him institutional power. Let him lock in authority beyond 2027 when his army term ends, and it would fit perfectly with Trump's known affection for strongmen. And in return, Washington has toned down criticism of Pakistan's missile program, resumed some 8 programs, and is reportedly considering selling advanced weaponry, night vision tech, armored vehicles, even surveillance systems. Trump-linked investors, in fact, are showing interest in Pakistan's crypto and mining sectors. So what is this about really? Is it just military diplomacy or a shadow presidency? If an unelected general meets the US president repeatedly, if he shapes trade, talks peace, sets the narrative, then is this still diplomacy or something far more dangerous? And how many times has Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif met Donald Trump? How long did Imran Khan wait for a White House visit? If Pakistan's army chief is now its de facto face abroad, who is actually running the country? On to breaking news coming in from Moscow. The Russian President Vladimir Putin met India's National Security Adviser, and this meeting took place just a short while back. The timing of the meeting, remember, is crucial as it comes just a day after Washington hiked tariffs on New Delhi over its purchase of Moscow's oil. Ajit Doval has said during his meetings in Moscow that dates for the Russian president's visit to India are being worked out. He said that the Russian president would be visiting India very soon. The Indian National Security Advisor held talks with the Russian Security Council Secretary and other senior officials that focused on bilateral energy and defense cooperation. And Prime Minister Modi had traveled to Russia twice last year, remember, for an annual summit with Putin and to attend the BRICS summit in Kazan. Let's go straight across now to Siddhant Sibal, our Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, with us for more on that. Siddhant, what more are we gathering at this point?
Well, essentially an important development, the Indian NSA in Moscow meeting the Russian President Vladimir Putin. It is significant in many ways. Now, we know that when it comes to the visit, the focus remains on the upcoming visit of the Russian President to India for the annual India-Russia summit. Focus also on the regional situation, whether it's Afghanistan stability, whether it's the issue of cross-border terrorism from Pakistan. The visit, of course, comes at a very interesting timing when Donald Trump has been threatening India with tariffs, and Donald Trump himself is going to meet Vladimir Putin likely next week, according to reports. So geopolitics is, of course, a game that changes very fast, but the Indian NSA in Russia is something that will be noticed globally as well. It is expected that the Indian External Affairs Minister is likely to travel to Russia as well. We know that the India-Russia relationship, as the Indian side has been saying, has been a time-tested one, and that is very clear as well. We have seen a lot of changes globally in geopolitics, but one relationship that has been a factor of stability, it has been the India-Russia relationship. India has also continued its import of Russian energy despite the Western sanctions. The Western, not the sanctions, I would say, the Western threats. Of course, the Russian President Vladimir Putin's meeting, of course, is also expected to happen with the Indian Prime Minister on the sidelines of the SCO summit later this month to China, where the Indian Prime Minister is expected to travel.
All right, we're leaving it there for the moment. Siddhant getting us more on those crucial developments coming in from Moscow, and we will be keeping a close eye. Shifting focus now to Gaza, with many Palestinians starving to death amid critical aid food shortages. Time and again, several advisories have been issued warning that the Palestinian territory was on the brink of a full-scale famine. But there's still one question there. How much food can Palestinians grow in their own land? Unfortunately, not a lot. And in a rather alarming revelation, the United Nations has said that only 1.5% of cropland can be both accessed and currently suitable to cultivate produce. A country of, in fact, Gaza, which has almost 2 million starving Palestinians left with undamaged farmland just over 2 square kilometers. As per the Food and Agriculture Organization, this is down from 4% in April. The body further suggesting that farmland has been a potent target since early March, when Israel initiated a complete blockade, leaving the once abundant and lush Gaza Strip mostly barren and also unfit for production of food crops. And in northern Gaza, Israeli tanks and bombs have reportedly destroyed or damaged 94% of what was among the most fertile, productive land there. In fact, Israel's target also including other food sources like greenhouses as well as fisheries, reportedly. However, this was not always the case. In fact, Gaza was a thriving agricultural hub where farmers and ordinary Palestinians cultivated a wide variety of fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains for local consumption. This is the same Gaza that now has its people struggling for a one-time hot meal. That too only if luck favors them. As per the Gaza Health Ministry, 5 more people died of malnutrition and starvation in the Gaza Strip in the last 48 hours. A global health monitor saying mostly children under the age of 5 are succumbing to death due to hunger-related causes.
We used to eat 3 meals a day. We forgot the rice and the flour in addition to the fruit and vegetables we used to get. Today we crave bread. We miss rice. The prices are unimaginable and they are not even available. If a few trucks cross, then bodies are in front of them.
And in the wake of the rising hunger and dire food shortages, displaced Gaza farmers have now taken to growing vegetables and local harvests in small plots of land outside tents with the hope of sustaining their children and families and just to survive another day.
I grow vegetables first and foremost because it's my profession, but what pushed me to return to it, in light of the war and the shortages of water and food, is the closure of the crossings. That's the main reason I went back to this work. Our bodies need tomatoes, cucumbers, and these products are expensive here.
However, all hope is not lost yet, with countries like Egypt coordinating the transfer of 1.5 million tons of food and supplies through the Rafah crossing on the Gaza-Egypt border to address the rising hunger and malnutrition in reportedly one of the largest aid initiatives since the start of the conflict. And not just food, of course, it also remains committed in delivering vital aid like medicines, fuel, other essentials that the people of Gaza need urgently.
We have 200 of the trucks that you are all watching and seeing. They have like more than 5,000 volunteers going and delivering all the help that our brothers in Gaza they need. This scene is very important to Egypt because, as we said, the government, the civil society is working together.
But the question still is it enough, with Palestinians barely making do with whatever little is left or provided to them in bouts? As per experts, it's only a matter of time for Palestinians to completely run out of both food produce and supplies. And as talks on hostage release and ceasefire deal appear to be at a standstill, Netanyahu plans to go full throttle as he seeks to occupy Gaza with his war operations. And speaking to Sky News, former Israel Prime Minister had called on Israelis to take a stand for themselves, citing that the time to act is now. The age of hypersonic warfare has arrived in the Pacific as America deploys its most lethal weapon system on Australian soil for the first time. The Dark Eagle missile, capable of striking Beijing from Japan in under 30 minutes, has crossed the ocean as the ultimate warning to Chinese aggression. Simultaneously, Russia and China conduct joint naval exercises, and the US and Australia respond with their own devastating display of military might. And tonight on Gravitas, we are examining how hypersonic missiles are reshaping the strategic balance of power across the Indo-Pacific theater of war. Take a look.
The thunder of hypersonic warfare has reached Australian shores in the most provocative display of American military might since the Cold War. The United States has deployed its devastating Dark Eagle missile system overseas for the first time, transforming Australia's Northern Territory into a launch pad for hypersonic destruction. This is no ordinary weapons deployment. This is strategic intimidation at Mach 5. Dark Eagle is a land-based, maneuverable hypersonic weapon capable of traveling over 6,100 kilometers per hour and striking targets more than 2,700 kilometers away. They operate via a battery of 4 launchers capable of carrying 2 missiles each. The strategic calculus of destruction are terrifyingly simple. From Japan, this weapon could reach Beijing in less than 30 minutes, traveling too fast for conventional missile defense systems to intercept. The new missile was tested during Talisman Sabre 2025, a massive 3-week exercise involving more than 40,000 troops from the United States, Australia, and 17 other nations. These massive drills are coinciding with massive drills held by America's adversaries. Russia and China held coordinated naval exercises in the Pacific. These drills held in the Sea of Japan. Thousands of troops, along with advanced warships, submarines and jets, took part in the joint military drills. The new American missile test comes at a time when Russia is also racing ahead with the mass production and deployment of its Oreshnik missile, which can strike several European capitals in a matter of minutes. The new age missiles like the Russian Oreshnik and American Dark Eagle are designed to strike first, strike fast, and strike undetected, slipping past air defenses and neutralizing high-value targets before a counterattack can even be launched. The shadow of hypersonic weapons now darkens every adversary's calculation, and the world has just witnessed who controls the stopwatch in this arms race. Bureau Report, WION World is one.
On to Spain now, confirming previous reports of shelving the purchase of the US-made F-35 jets. Spain's defense ministry has now said that it is mulling procurement of F-35 fighter jets. As per a report, the Spain government has planned to shelve plans indefinitely, and with this, Spain is believed to follow India's lead. India also had turned down the F-35 offer from the US early this month, and as per newspaper reports, the Spain government had put aside almost $7.24 billion in its 2023 budget to buy new fighter jets. So what made the country take a U-turn? As per reports, the Spanish government's additional investments in defense prompted such a move, and Spain's readjustments in defense spendings, spearheaded by the Prime Minister, were heavily criticized by US President Donald Trump, who also threatened to impose additional tariffs on the country's goods, thus making it a classic case of a NATO ally defying America in the face of threats and building pressure. Manufactured by American aerospace giant Lockheed Martin, F-35 jets are fifth-generation stealth jets, combining advanced stealth with fighter speed and agility. They are equipped with fully fused sensor information, network-enabled operations, and advanced sustainment that make them a force to reckon with on battlefields. Commenting on the issue, the manufacturer Lockheed Martin said in a statement, quoting, "Foreign military sales are government-to-government transactions, and this matter is best addressed by the US or the Spanish government." What options does Spain have now to arm itself? While reports suggest India turning to Russian Su-57 and indigenous AMCAS, Reports also suggesting European-made Eurofighter manufactured by Airbus and the Future Combat Air System developed by Dassault Aviation are touted to be viable alternatives to the F-35s for Spain.
Take over, Elijah.
I think he's a good person. I think he had a bad moment, really bad moment.
It seems US President Donald Trump has had a change of heart towards Elon Musk. And perhaps you're thinking, weren't they up in arms against each other just a while back? In what can be called one of the ugliest spats between the two influential leaders on full public display, in a world full of breakups and patch-ups, experts say this bromance between Trump and Musk is one for the books. And both could be pretty close in proving them right, in fact. A lot has happened. Trump was asked by reporters on his views on a Gallup poll, calling Musk one of the most unpopular people in America currently. Much to everyone's surprise, Trump begged to differ, as he replied saying that Musk is a nice guy. Not just that, commenting on their rather public fallout, Trump saying that he had a bad moment. Listen to this.
A new Gallup poll says that Elon Musk is the most unpopular public figure in the country right now. I'm wondering, do you miss having him around the White House, or is that poll accurate?
I don't know if the poll's accurate. I think he's a good person. I think he had a bad moment, really bad moment. But he's a good person. I believe that.
And this got some thinking. Is the Trump-Musk bromance likely to make a comeback? According to some experts, it's not impossible and could very much be on the cards for the Trump administration, given the big role that Musk had played when it comes to Trump being back in power. However, this is not the first time. Earlier as well, Trump extended an olive branch to Musk. Just in July, Trump said in a post on Truth Social that he would not try to destroy Elon Musk's companies by taking away federal subsidies, and said that he wants the billionaire tech entrepreneurs' businesses to thrive. Musk, on the other hand, had been dropping hints on differences with the US president since May, when he announced to roll back on political involvement to refocus on his Tesla operations. Trump and Musk fell out shortly afterward when Musk openly denounced the Republican president's tax cut and spending bill, leading to threats by Trump to cancel billions of dollars worth of federal government contracts with Musk companies. And Musk also declared the possibility of forming a brand new party to contest. In fact, this is also in the backdrop of how believable is Trump's recent claim really. Did President Trump merely dole out a diplomatic response, or does he really stand by his words when it comes to Elon Musk? As per reports, an alleged attack on a former Doge employee in Washington early this week drew sharp responses from both Trump and Musk. And this also landed both of them on the same page for the first time in months, it seems. Trump's softened stance towards Musk also posing fresh questions. Will Musk be seen in the White House yet again? After his rather short-lived stint earlier, where he led the Department of Government Efficiency and also became the face of some controversies. One thing is clear, when it comes to Trump's America, your guess is as good as ours, and one should always brace for surprises. Our next story is about something rather concerning. Sample this. In the United States, since January, 212,000 women of age 20 and above have left the workforce. That's a huge number. And this is as per the figures released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics of the United States Department of Labor. But what exactly do these numbers mean? What do they tell us? Is there a larger trend at play here? And what explains this? Why are women exiting the workforce? One factor at play here is flexibility, which has been impacted there. But that's just one of the many factors. And the thing with flexibility is it's very subjective. There's also the aspect of childcare support. Some women also might not want to return to the workplace if that option is taken away. So calling employees back to the office, for example, is a major factor at play as well. Work from home, after all, makes it easier to balance it all. And let's face it, there is a lot of balancing involved. In fact, research has suggested that women are more likely to go in for a lower paying job if it comes with flexibility. And the thing is, if those jobs see layoffs, for example, federal workers under the downsizing in the United States, that would mean women could be affected to a great extent. And what do the numbers look like around the world? As per a study of 90 countries by the International Labour Organization, mothers of children below the age of 5 had the lowest employment rate globally. You also might have heard of the phrase called motherhood penalty. As the name suggests, it basically refers to the price paid by many young mothers when they have their kids and drop out of paid work. And that again comes back to the kind of domestic support that they would have, the way the caregiving and household responsibilities are divided and shared, for example. Also, the period of being away from work, if that happens, can be just a minor pause in a long journey. It doesn't have to be the end of the journey or impact it substantially. But returning to work also comes with its own share of challenges for many. And the onus also lies on the workplace to create a supportive environment. Ultimately, in an ideal world, it should solely be the woman's choice whether she wants to work or not, without external factors at play. But again, that's an ideal scenario, one which unfortunately and heartbreakingly so does not exist. Switching gears, the ocean's greatest voices have gone eerily quiet and scientists are sounding the alarm. We're talking about blue whales, the Earth's largest creatures whose songs once traveled across entire ocean basins. They have mysteriously stopped singing in unprecedented numbers. Our next report dives into the chilling silence that signals something is terribly wrong beneath those waves. Take a look.
Blue whales are the ocean's supreme singers, their melodies traveling thousands of miles through the deep blue void. These magnificent giants, stretching up to 100 and weighing as much as 200 tons, possess hearts the size of small cars and voices that can span entire ocean basins. Their songs are nature's most powerful acoustic phenomena, reaching volumes of 188 decibels and frequencies so low they penetrate the deepest trenches. But now the music has died. In the waters of California's Monterey Bay, where scientists have monitored whale communications for decades, an unprecedented silence has descended. Blue whale vocalizations have dropped by almost 40%, with populations of krill and anchovy collapsing. The implications are more terrifying than any natural disaster. When Earth's largest animals stop singing, entire ecosystems are collapsing. Unlike flexible humpbacks, blue whales rely almost entirely on krill. When krill vanished, their ability to feed and to sing shattered. This silence is more than biological, it's a climate alarm, signaling that warming oceans, toxic algae blooms, plastic pollution, and collapsing food webs are pushing marine giants to the brink. As marine heat waves become more frequent, the consequences ripple through ocean ecosystems. Blue whales are not just animals, they are climate barometers. Their songs chart ecosystem health. Silence then is not just absence, it's urgency. The ocean's voice is fading, and if we don't act, the deep could fall silent entirely. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks for watching.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
अबे रिक्शा वाले पैसे ना लेना मैडम से, भाभी है तुम्हारी।
You are mad, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है।
As Ranjana re-releases in Indian cinemas, we tell you why the film's team is not happy.
I've sometimes been called the most famous comedian who nobody knows.
Meet world-renowned stand-up comedian Papa CJ.
Maybe you have to let go of who you were.
And just like that, bid adieu to the much-talked-about Sex and the City reboot.
We're still gonna have to call it date night in our 50s?
All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe,